Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Heering.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the man who owns and has been driving the bandwagon for over 50 years, Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing great. Just folks, if you want to, there's plenty of room on the bandwagon. I've created plenty of seats. I've cleaned them. They're polished. They're all ready to jump on. Now that the Giants are 7-3 in their last 10, they've moved up into, real contention in the wild card standings over the last 10 games. So yeah, there's plenty of room, folks. Plenty of room on my bandwagon.
That's right. That's right. And not that long ago, Matthew, you were thinking about selling the old bandwagon. Like, it was just a money pit.
Oh, I don't. That was the booze talking.
That was the booze talking. You two were doing a lot of drinking. Yeah. That's the way it is when the Giants are infuriating, as they have been for most of 2024. But yesterday, they were 5 games above homeostasis. Now, the furthest the Giants have ever gotten away from homeostasis on the negative side was, I think, 4 games. They were 6 games under. So, 5 games over homeostasis on the positive side, Matthew. You could be right. Ben could be wrong.
I'm right.
It's all smooth sailing from here.
That's right. Don't look at the schedule in September, but yeah, that's right.
Right. Ignore those 12 games against the D-bags and the Padres, who have played better than the Giants against way tougher competition. Okay, not the Marlins. The Marlins are not tougher competition. But mostly it's those D-bags that really irritate me.
Did you know the D-bags lead the majors in runs scored?
What?
That's what Fleming said on the radio today. Or was it John? I don't know, one of them. I was listening to the game on the radio.
Both of those guys are liars. I can't think of 2 worse announcers in baseball than Dave Fleming and John Miller.
Oh yeah, jeez.
They don't know anything. They don't know it, because that sounds preposterous. Next thing you're going to tell me is that Corbin Carroll got good again.
No, they've done it without Corbin Carroll.
Oh really? Is he not good? I thought he was getting better.
Oh, I don't know. But they did say that Corbin Carroll has struggled, and still they lead the majors in runs scored.
624 runs, Matthew. My goodness, nobody else is even in the 600s. Holy smokes. That's upsetting to me. They must have given up a lot of runs, though, right? 556. See, they've given up 19 more runs than the Giants.
See, losers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did my math wrong. 21 more runs.
Oh, all right. See? Giants
you know what? The Giants... Actually, you know what? Now that I think about this, does make sense, because the Giants are a negative 5 run differential, but that's not real. Because remember, they lost to the D-bags 17-1.
That's right.
So, and as everybody knows, you get to drop your worst game.
You do.
That doesn't count.
Nope, it doesn't
count.
So
really, the Giants are 10 over.
Exactly.
And that's why the D-bags have scored so many runs, because they've played the Giants so many times. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. All right, well, yes, the Giants have done what they were supposed to do. They have beaten the cupcakes, and they have just feasted on so many cupcakes. But you are right, Matthew. There's only 8 cupcakes left, and then the cupcakes are all gone. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're also going to be talking about, at great length, about something that I am very angry about. You didn't think
What could that be?
Yeah,
Ben?
yeah, well, I think what happens when a analytic nerd who doesn't watch baseball games and an old boomer get together, they ruin young men's brilliant careers because they don't like the way Zennials talk or something. So we're going to dive way deep into that. Before we do that, though, I have an icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
Matthew, 2 weeks ago, we were going to start a new show all about the Olympics.
Yes.
And now they're over, and we didn't do anything. Olympic cocktails. We never got it off the ground. That's seems to be a theme around here. It's probably my fault.
I'm blaming you.
Anyway, my question for you is, Matthew, now that the 2024 Olympics are over, what was your favorite highlight?
Okay, so full confession, I haven't watched one Olympic thing live. Not one.
Oh, Matthew, they happen. I don't know if you know this, but they all happen at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
But I haven't watched it when they air it. Like I see it. Like I go look for things that I want to watch and things. So mine is a little jaded. I think so. The first one that stands out is Sydney McLaughlin's world record in the 400 hurdles. Because
that was take that Femke Bowl.
Yeah, and like if you put that time in the open 400, and she'd finish like fifth or fourth in the open 4, which is crazy.
It is crazy.
So that's one. But then the other, pommel horse guy. I'm just gonna say it.
Oh, pommel horse guy, Steve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a big fan of pommel horse guy. Specialists, Ben. Specialists matter. And you can just create a whole life for yourself just by being a specialist, being good at one thing, really good thing. And so that, and then finally, Ilona Maher from the women's rugby. I didn't know anything about women's rugby before I started watching Ilona Maher, and man, that woman's a beast. I love her. She's amazing. So those are my favorite Olympic moments, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
What about you?
All right. Good. Oh, well, I agree with you on the women's rugby. That was really fun to watch. And
I didn't know what I was watching on that last point when they scored to tie it and then win the thing. I had no idea what was happening.
Well, I was well versed by then because I had watched all of their matches and many other matches leading up to that, because I bought the thing on the Peacock TV where you could just watch whatever sport you wanted, and I watched all of the women's rugby. That was my first favorite thing about the Olympics, and so I knew exactly what was going on when Spiff scored that try. It's interesting, Matthew. In order to get the try, you have to run down and take the ball and touch it down to the ground, and they call that a try, which is weird. One would think they were always trying,
right? But
then in football, when you get the ball across the line, you don't have to touch it down, but it's called a touchdown. Anyway, so yes, that was pretty exciting. I really also, Matthew, I don't know if you've heard about this sport. It's called basketball.
Oh,
it's a lot like handball, but
the YMCA invented it. So yeah, I'm pretty
I didn't know that.
It. Yeah.
So in handball you have to throw the ball. You can't dribble it. You have to pass it down the court. Well, in this sport they let you bounce the ball, kind of like a little child.
Yeah.
And when you're bouncing it, you can run. And then instead of having a big goal with like a normal size goal with a goalie, they have these tiny little baskets. I think they're for peaches. They have peach baskets, and they can throw the ball in there. Anyway, crazy little sport. But there's this guy named Steph Curry who could like put that ball in the peach basket from anywhere on the court over like these super tall dudes. And that seems to be all you need to do to play this sport, actually, Matthew, is to be super tall. It's kind of weird. I don't know. But anyway, it was really exciting. That's what I love about the Olympics, is that you get to see these sports.
These players you've never heard of? Yeah.
And these players you've never heard of do these things. And you're like, oh, good for him. He seems like a nice young man. He's actually like 30, and he's like in mid-30s.
Well,
I think he must be. Yeah, he must be like a lawyer or a doctor or something like that during his normal life. But anyway, my favorite thing, Matthew, was the men's 400. Because the guy who won the gold medal came from behind in the last 110, 20 meters, and he showed you that you have to be 3 things to be good at that event. You have to be talented. You have to work really, really hard. And then you have to be tremendously mentally strong. And that's why I was so good at it. Anyway, today is Sunday. August 11th.
Says it right there.
Lost my place in the notes, okay?
Okay, all right.
Your San Francisco Giants went 5-2 this past week to bring their record to 61. And listen to this, folks, because this is going to blow you away. Matthew, the carrot is facing away. The big end of the carrot is facing towards the 61.
Wow.
Remember what that means?
Less than?
That's the bigger number.
Oh, okay. That means we have more wins than losses? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. 2 of them. It's shocking. It's
our
shocking.
Wins are greater than our losses?
That's right. Wow. Look at you. Really nice.
The alligator's eating the wins.
That's right. You've come so far.
I have.
You've come so far.
Been studying.
But it's like the first time since, I don't know, May of 1987. The Giants made the playoffs that year. Lost to the Cardinals. Anyway, I'm still bitter about it. Anyway, they went 3-1 against the Washington Nationals in Washington, which, folks, if you've watched the San Francisco Giants over the past few years, you know that's no sure thing. Okay, as bad as the Nationals may seem, they have the Giants' number, especially in Washington. But they only had Hayden Birdsong's number. Well, they had a little bit of Kyle Harrison's number too, but we eked it out. But whatever, 3-1. And then against the Detroit Tigers, who some might call the San Francisco Giants of the AL. Because, similar record, similar mediocrity, not really doing a whole lot, but just kind of hanging in there. Well, the Giants roughed them up for 2 games, but then they lost today because they did a lot of San Francisco Giants stuff today, 2024 Giants stuff today. And that's the one thing that I tell you I've noticed, Matthew, about this run by the Giants is that the reason why bad teams are bad can be because they're bad at pitching and hitting and defense or some combination thereof. But quite often, it's because they make a lot of mistakes, right? Like the Nationals gave the Giants some games,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And today, the Giants, I think, gave the Tigers a lot. Well, they let the Tigers get out of trouble a lot today.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where you're just like, maybe I'm just going to keep driving here, Matthew, in my car behind your bandwagon. Right? Like, I feel much better if I'm in my own vehicle behind my wheel.
Ye of little
get
faith.
Off at any exit.
Ye of little faith, Ben. All right. Get on the bandwagon or walk your butt home, okay? Because we're only a game and a half out of the final wild card spot.
I know. I was just going to get into that.
We could be the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are like, remember they were ahead of us like a week ago?
Yeah, they pirated. They Pittsburgh pirated. Matthew, Joey Bart can only do so much.
Only so much. That's right.
Yeah. Get this, folks. Joey is batting .267 with a .347 on-base percentage and a .507 slugging percentage. His OPS plus is 138. That means he's 38% better than your average major league hitter. His weighted runs created plus 142. Again, 42% better than your average hitter. He has hit 10 home runs for those Pirates, and he missed a month, and his B-WAR is 1.4. And yet, despite all of that, he's still 4 WAR behind Patrick Bailey because Patrick Bailey is a virtuoso behind the plate.
I was just going to ask you, how's Joey's defense? I guess that answers it.
It's mediocre. It's actually kind of gotten worse, really. But Joey can't do enough to carry that team because was it like 7 in a row now? 8 in a row?
Yeah, they're 1-9 in their last 10. Yeah, so
the Pirates are toast. Anyway, the Giants are in 4th place in the National League West. Whatever. 9 games out. Who cares? They're 1.5 games, Matthew, as you said, out of the last wild card spot. They do have 3 teams to pass because they are tied with the Mets. No,
yes.
The Cardinals.
No, the Cardinals. Yes,
and they are just 1 game behind the Mets.
Yep,
and 1.5 games behind the Braves. And
all of them lost today, so we didn't lose any ground on the wild card.
That's right. Didn't lose any time on the wild card. Yes, and the Pirates are toast. They're done. I mean, I suppose they could pick themselves up off the mat, but just a 7-game losing streak at this point was not good.
Yeah, no.
The Cardinals are spinning their wheels, right? They've kind of been playing 500 or a little bit worse than that. And the Cubs are stalking, but the Cubs are a game and a half behind the Giants. But they have been just as hot as the Giants, if not hotter, over the last 10 games. So they're not out of the woods, but folks, it looks a lot better than it did just 3 days ago.
That's right. Get on the bandwagon, folks. Got plenty of room.
When Matthew, the driver of the bandwagon, told you there's no chance.
That didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
He said Ben Caspick is lying to you. There's no chance.
I don't remember that at all.
That's what he said.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was a moment of weakness, okay? Moment of weakness.
Bob, can we play that back? Can we play that clip back?
No, we cannot because I'm editing tonight.
Why are you shaking your head at me, Bob? We don't have that capability? Okay, I guess we don't have that capability. But anyway, Matthew said it. You could go, folks, you could go back and listen to that episode again if you want.
They could, but they won't. They're just going to have to take my word for it.
Okay, right. Yeah, sure. But anyway, the point is the Giants are good. And we're going to talk about all of that, but not before I rant about the demotion of the best player on the San Francisco Giants.
Matt Chapman
Camilo
got
Doval.
demoted? Oh, sorry.
No, it was Blake Snell. Come on, dude. It's Blake Snell. I mean, I agree. Maddie's.
I thought we were talking about the whole year. Like I was, that's.
No. I was talking about in the history of the team.
Oh,
no,
wow.
That's an overstatement. That's an overstatement. He's second to Matt Williams. No, he's just my favorite player right now. Exactly. But anyway, I still disagree with it because I guess he can't be my favorite player on the Giants right now, can he?
No, he cannot. Now you're a River Cat fan.
That's right. Yeah, maybe I'll just start talking about River Cats. But anyway, before we get to any of that, you got to ask us our trivia question, Matthew.
All right. Well, speaking of your favorite former Giant, Camilo Doval is currently 7th all-time in career saves for the Giants with 91. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, how weird is that your 7th all-time in saves got demoted to AAA?
Oh,
we're going to talk about
ahead
that.
of yourself.
We're going to talk about that. Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get there.
The question is, what two players is he in between on the all-time list? Like, who's number 6 and who's number 8?
Oh, man. Like, this is hard for me to get wrong intentionally because it's closers. And so there's not very many of these guys, and I might accidentally just get it right. Okay, I'm going to say Rob Nen.
Okay.
And Steve Bedrosian.
Oh, okay. All right. Those are two names out of the past. We will see how wrong Ben is, thankfully, at the end of the episode.
I bet he is between those two. Just not right together on that.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails.
Oh, yes. Time to talk cocktails. All right.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
So, Bob, first of all, my audio might sound a little cavernous today, and there's a reason for that, because my older daughter, who I share an abode with, came down with COVID yesterday. And so we all had to scatter. So I am at my girlfriend's place, and she has a very nice room that is very big, and I'm recording in it. So if I sound a little hollowy, I apologize, but that is what happens when COVID strikes the household. But what I'm drinking today is a cocktail that is called Antibes. So what's in an Antibes? Well, it's got 1.5 ounces of gin. Now, the original recipe calls for 1/2 ounce of Benedictine. I gotta be honest, I doubled that because, and then 2 ounces of grapefruit juice. So there were a lot of grapefruit juice in this. And then you put all those into a cocktail shaker with ice, shake it until well chilled, and strain it into a rocks glass with fresh ice. And you're going to garnish it with a grapefruit wedge. And you get this citrusy yet sweet enough with the Benedictine and the nice herbal notes of the gin coming through. It's a very nice cocktail. And if you're not into the whole sweet thing, then the 1/2 ounce of Benedictine will just cut that bitterness enough. But I wanted it a little sweeter, so I went with a full ounce. But up to you. Do you? So that's what I'm drinking, Bob. The Antibes.
That's a tasty cocktail.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like this one.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you. Bob, today I wanted a margarita. but we try not to repeat ourselves on the show, especially on the Monday show. And also, the margarita doesn't have any ingredients that represent the blood of an old boomer who should be put out to pasture and a nerdy Gen Xer who doesn't know art or entertainment or talent unless he sees it on a spreadsheet. So I needed something red. So what I made today, Bob, is inspired by a margarita, but since it's not a margarita, it needed to be called something else. And that is Justice for Camilo.
Oh.
A Justice for Camilo has 2 ounces of Reposado Tequila, 1 ounce of cherry Heering Liqueur, half an ounce to represent the blood of the boomer, half an ounce to represent the blood of the Gen Xer,
Okay.
and then 1 ounce of lime juice. You put all of those into a shaker with ice, you shake that until chilled, and then you pour that into a rocks glass with more ice. I would also serve this up, quite frankly. I think you don't want to over-dilute this one. And then I put 3 Luxardo Cherries into it because I'm angry and I really needed them. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. Justice for Camilo.
All right. Are you sure the 3 cherries don't stand for the number of walks that Camilo allows per appearance?
No. I'm sorry. They represent the number of games that Camilo has lost for them this year. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong. It's too many.
That's a tasty cocktail.
We always forget that Bob's hanging out there. Yeah,
Thanks.
This does sound good, Bob, doesn't it? All right. Well, we might as well talk about it. So you're a little bitter.
Oh, yeah.
You're ready to cast aspersions, as they say, on a boomer and a Gen Xer, a nerdy Gen Xer.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. First of all, everybody knows by now, but Camilo Doval, who was the closer for the Giants, he was all-star last year, led the league, I think, the National League in saves last year.
Yep.
And was suddenly unceremoniously shipped off to Sacramento this last week. And Ben, my question to you is, should it have happened?
Definitely, Matthew. What happened was they gave this kid a light show, and it went straight to his head. You know how these Zennials are, these Gen Zers. And he's a prima donna now, and the only way to deal with a prima donna is to ground him, because that's what these children need. They need some strong parenting, and so, of course, that's what we did. Oh, sorry, I was possessed by Bob Melvin there for a moment. What did I say?
You said that he deserved to be sent down. Yeah.
Oh, okay, no, he did not deserve to be demoted. However, I do want to say this. He probably should have been demoted from the role of closer, okay? Because the peripheral numbers, Matthew, aren't good. First of all, let's start with the most important number. Camilo has blown 5 saves. But I don't really think that's the most important thing about this. I think the problem is that Camilo hasn't been the best reliever on the team this year, all year. But he did blow 5 saves. His whip is horrific, right? His walks and hits per 9 innings is horrific, especially his walk rate. And the fact of the matter is, it was probably only a matter of time before the Giants started losing games because of him. They had gotten lucky up to this point that he hadn't lost them games. But I do want to point out this. The Giants, Matthew, lost of those 5 blown saves that Camilo has had. And remember, you can blow a save without being the closer, right? Blowing a save just means the team was leading when you went in, and then they were not by the time you left or the game was over. That's a blown save. So Camilo has 5. Walker has 3. Ryan Walker has 3, right? So I think Tyler Rogers has 3. So anyway, these things happen to everybody. But how many of those 5 blown saves did the team actually lose? Like, how many games did Camilo lose for them? 2, Matthew. 2. Do you know where that ranks him in the major leagues amongst all pitchers?
First? Last?
No, Matthew. It ranks him as 43rd. 43rd.
He's so you're saying that there are 42 other guys that have lost more games?
More than that. They have cost their team more than that. And do you know how many of those guys got demoted to AAA? I don't know either, Matthew.
All of them, right?
All of them, yes, because that is the appropriate action. Yes, that is the appropriate action. Once you get to 2 losses, you are demoted to AAA. No, Matthew. So 42 guys are worse, but also, you know how many he's tied with? Guess how many?
5.
50. You were off by an order.
People?
Yeah, he's tied with 50. 5-0. 5-0.
So you're saying there are like 94 guys that
are as bad as Camilo or worse, including Craig Kimbrell. Both of the guys that the Dodgers tried to use as their closer. And so many more. It's just... it's ludicrous. It's like you don't go from being the closer, you're an all-star guy, the number 1 closer in the National League, to being demoted. You don't go from the number 1 guy on the list to not even good enough to be the 8th guy on the list.
You don't go from the 7th all-time in saves to being sent to Sacramento?
No, you just don't. This makes no sense. Like the Giants are intentionally making their roster worse. And so the question is, why? But more importantly, who? Who did this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I feel like, obviously Farhan has control over the roster. And so it would be easy to say it was Farhan's fault and that Farhan decided that Camilo didn't deserve to be on there and that Camilo wasn't one of their best pitchers. But I tend to think it might be Bob Melvin. I feel like Bob Melvin got tired of Camilo's shit and maybe just went to Farhan and said, I don't want to play him.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I do think that. Because I don't think Farhan would have demoted him either. And that's because Bob Melvin is a boomer. And boomers do crap like this, right? Because they're so smart. They know so much. They're so much wiser than everybody else.
Apologies if you were a boomer listening to this. Don't take it personally.
It's like half our audience, dude. Goodbye.
Oh.
No, I don't. It's not. I mean, I don't. It's being a boomer isn't actually when you were born. It's a state of mind.
It's a mindset. Yeah.
Listen, Matthew and I are Gen Xers, but we didn't invent social media, right? That's not our fault. like, we're not the ones who did it. And so you can't blame Matthew and I for all the horrible things that Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and all those other guys did. But, it's a state of mind. So, when I mean boomer I mean, paternalistic things because you think, it's tough love, but you're really doing it because you're angry. Like your mom or your dad.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think Bob Melvin wants to win. And I think that he's willing to tell Farhan that I don't like your player here and I'm not going to play him. He's not helping us win. And so I feel like that was a big part of it. And I would love to know how that went down. I mean,
I don't think Bob is afraid to say that. And I think he's also can make it clear that he's going to do that. But here's the thing. I do want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Because I do actually see a valid reason why you would maybe think you need to send Camilo down. And that is because I think they have a significant communication problem with him. And this has been there since he surfaced in 2021, right? I remember Kurt Casale, middle of a game, being very exasperated with him because he would refuse to throw his fastball. Because he didn't trust it and he wanted to throw the slider, which he has always had more faith in terms of control. And I remember Posey getting frustrated with him. And he's had these issues with the pitching clock, and it just sort of seems like these are things that you should be able to resolve. And I think the Giants, I suspect, have a situation where they ask him to do things, and I wonder if he's saying yes, but then not doing it.
So this is like the HR equivalent of insubordination? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think this is sort of like, I think this is not meant to be punitive as much as it is meant to be a shock to the system, which is like, either tell us no, you disagree, so we can have that conversation, or say yes and then do it. Right? And I wonder if they're getting that middle answer, which nobody likes, right? And I know Melvin had that situation where Camilo came into that game where they had the huge lead and he gave up a lot of runs and he threw a big fit and everybody's going to point to that and say, yeah, that is why Melvin got rid of him, which would be a very boomer thing to do. But I think this is because I think this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to shock him into being like, hey, listen, when we ask you to do things, you need to do them, ideally, or at least tell us that you're not. And I think that that hasn't been happening. I think demoting him from the closer role would have been enough to get the results they wanted. But maybe they disagree.
I don't think so. I mean, look at what he's done in non-safe situations. He's not engaged. He doesn't want to be there. It's clear that he doesn't want to be out there, and he doesn't put out his best when it's a non-safe situation. I don't think they could have done that. I don't think they could have put him in a low leverage situation and expected him to come out and be the Camilo they need him to be. So I think the only option was to demote him, or they could have traded him before the trade deadline.
I mean, okay,
they didn't do that.
That's okay. You know what? We have this other topic. I'm going to bring that up later, so I'm just going to put that one in my pocket. I think if they had told him you're losing your role and you're going to go pitch cleanup in games that don't matter, right? You're going to be the first guy, right? You're going to come in when we're losing by a lot. I think that would have been a clear message, and I think that would have been the same. That's the same as being demoted. But at least you still have a good reliever on your team. But one way or another, right, Matthew, you're right. It's either they didn't trust him or they don't believe, well, ultimately they don't trust him one way or another, right? They don't trust him to pitch well in a situation where he isn't the closer, which seems weird to me. Or they don't trust that he can improve on these things without this shock to the system. But regardless, you did bring up an interesting point. And it was this idea that this was Bob Melvin's decision. And we've seen a little bit of that lately. We've seen this whole thing with Mark Canha. And although I think that was a bunch of smokescreen, they got Canha to replace Wilmer. But we had this situation where like Farhan probably would not have demoted Camilo on his own. Right? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have this whole situation of trading Soler so that Marco Luciano could bat DH. And then, Matthew, it's just like December all over again. We lost Marco. The Giants didn't know where he was. Nobody had seen him for 6 days. And then today, boom, he shows up in the 9th inning on first base. Because he got a hit.
Protection. Yeah.
No, he didn't get a hit. He was pinch ran.
He didn't get a hit. He pinch ran. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's his only time he's played in the last week, his pinch running appearance in the 9th inning. But anyway, so this brings up a good point, Matthew. Do you think Bob Melvin and Farhan Zaidi are on the same page?
I do not. I don't. I think that there's been more and more examples are pointing to the fact that no. I think that that's what Farhan gets. I mean, he had his guy in Gabe Kapler, and Gabe Kapler was the company man and was gonna do everything that Farhan wanted him to do, and he doesn't have that anymore. He's got a 2-time manager of the year who's got thoughts and decisions that he wants to do, and so and has made it clear that they're his decisions on the field. And so I think that I don't think they're on the same page, and I think that this could be problematic. I think going forward, it would, and could maybe even be a power struggle at some point if the Giants continue to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Farhan Zaidi made a major mistake when he tried to do the normal Farhan thing with this manager, which is, I'm not going to do anything at the trade deadline. I'm going to do a little dibbling, a little dabbling. I'm going to go, and I'm going to go get Mark Canna, and that's going to be my only move. And that's not even. And he actually did that. It turns out, to replace an injured player.
Yeah.
Right. And
then he got rid of his big free agent.
I'm going to do the most Farhan thing ever, which is get rid of my big free agent signing in the middle of the season because he hasn't quite lived up to expectations, and he's clogging up all the other things that, in my mind, I want to do, and what Gabe Kapler would have done if he was still here with the roster. And I'm going to bring up this kid who, over the last 6 years, I haven't been able to teach a single position to, and plop him in that DH spot. And Bob Melvin is like, nuh-uh. And it's mind-boggling to me. It's just so curious as to what is going on here, because it really looks like the Giants don't know what they're doing. And I mean, I don't blame Bob Melvin, right? Bob Melvin is there to win baseball games. Right. And so he's going to do whatever he can to make this roster win baseball games, which is why if you're the hobo, you got to make a roster that makes it super clear what you're trying to do. If you wanted to win, you should have gone out and bought. If you wanted to play the young guys, you should have sold. But instead, you did this middle of the road thing with, I don't know, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And now, Bob Melvin is going to do what he can do to try and win baseball games, which to him means Marco Luciano does not see the field. And so then you're just totally wasting Marco Luciano. Here's a kid who really needs to learn a position. He really needs to grow as a player. And you have now put him in the worst possible place. It's mind-boggling.
On Bob Melvin's bench. Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
And we could get into the fact that their biggest acquisition so far has been, Mexican League standout Gerard Encarnacion. So yeah, I agree. I think that there's, and I don't think that. Well, Bob Melvin playing Gerard is showing that he's going to play the guy that he thinks is going to help him win games, and Luciano is not that guy. So. Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think that that's not the only thing that kind of points to them maybe being at odds, right? I mean, and now I think it's only going to get worse with this whole pitching situation.
Because I mean, here's the thing, the idea was you make this push for the playoffs, but you do it using Luciano, Birdsong, and Harrison, right? These are the three young guys that you're really kind of exposing here. I mean, yes, you're relying on Ramos. Yes, you're relying on Fitzgerald. Those guys were going to play no matter what, though. You really leaning on Birdsong and Harrison. And then, because you did this weird, I'm sort of selling thing, you removed the best guy to sort of be the backfill for one of those, and he wouldn't have been a backfill. He was going to replace one of these guys.
Well, Alex Cobb.
Cobb. And then these guys were going to be the backup. But no, you traded Cobb and said, we're sticking with Birdsong and Harrison no matter what. And now Birdsong has had two really rough outings in a row, especially just giving up monster hits. I mean, he got dongled by the dingler, Matthew. I don't know if you saw that today.
By Francis?
Yeah. Francis Dillon Dingler really dongled the old Birdsong.
Is that the same thing as a full Monty? I don't know.
He did do the full Monty today, yes, Matthew. Dingler did the full Monty today. And I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if you noticed this, but I mean, that guy Dingler, right? He must have been around a while. He's
yeah. Oh, yeah. A whole 7 games, man.
Great. You're right.
24 at-bats. His first career home run today.
Yeah.
Against.
Yeah. So ever since that doubleheader game where Birdsong made that appearance, and then they did the trade and they announced that Birdsong is part of the permanent rotation and this is the best rotation in baseball, Hayden has sucked.
So what did they do as backup, Ben?
Well, this is important, Matthew, because Kyle Harrison also in his last start pitched through only 61 pitches, and his fastball was like 91.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, I've got good news. Do you remember our friend Spencer Howard?
Oh, I remember Spencer.
Well, good news, Matthew. After the Giants DFA'd him, the Cleveland Guardians came knocking and said, hey, we'll give you some money for that guy. And so the Giants were able to trade him for cash. But then the Guardians didn't like what they had, so they DFA'd him.
After 5 innings.
After five innings. And then, when they DFA'd him, he goes on waivers, and he got claimed by nobody. So they outrighted him to wherever you go that's worse than Cleveland. I don't know where that is.
Sacramento.
Toledo? Sacramento? No, I don't think the Guardians also play that in Sacramento, Matthew. I think
okay. Yeah, there was a step between that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he got outrighted to wherever, but because he's at a certain period in his career, he can say, no, thank you. I'm going to opt for free agency. And shockingly, Matthew, just like nobody signing him, or picking him up off of waivers, nobody signed him right away. So he was a free agent there for a while. But good news. I believe 2 or 3 days ago, it was either on the 8th or the 9th, the Giants signed Spencer Howard, and he's now back with the River Cats, ready to jump in as soon as Hayden Birdsong or Kyle Harrison falls over from exhaustion. And so that's our new safety net. Spencer Howard. Aren't you happy?
Sure. I mean, I guess it's better than Kai Tang. I don't know.
What is happening? What is happening? But this is the only direction you could have gone after what you did at the trade deadline. It's absurd. I just, what it makes. See, I'm stumbling. I'm so confused. What makes me confused about this is that typically the Giants don't get rid of a player that they feel like has value. They'll keep a guy, and even if it means even if it seems like a bad decision to keep him, right? Usually that's the way they go. Yeah.
And this time they get rid of Cobb without really having any viable backups. And
right.
So it was Birdsong and Harrison or bust.
Well, I feel like, Matthew, I feel like this is a disconnect between Farhan and Melvin.
Exactly.
I mean, This is like Farhan was like, look, we're going to make a shot at the playoffs, but if it doesn't go our way, we're just going to take our lumps and we're going to shift into growing our young guys. And I think Bob Melvin said, screw that, and he just put the pedal to the metal. Right?
Yeah, Bob's managing now, man. Bob is
He manages his guts out. And I think that's why they removed Camilo from the closer role, even though he's only lost the Giants 2 games, like 1,000 other closers. Is because he saw a guy who was putting every game that he was coming to at risk, and it was only a matter of time where he was going to cost them a single game. And that's why he doesn't trust him at all anywhere in the bullpen. And that's because the Giants can't afford to lose a single game that they should have won.
That they should win, yeah.
And so he is playing this all the way to he's playing it full bore. And my problem I don't have a problem with that. That's what the manager should do. But that means as the hobo, you can't try to finesse this stuff when you have a manager like this. And Farhan is always trying to finesse stuff, right? He's always trying to be the smartest man in the room. And his old buddy Gabe was totally into that. He was like, yeah, well, I'm the second smartest man in the room. I might be the smartest, but I never talk at all. So, it's better. And Bob Melvin Bob Melvin does not take that crap. He's a boomer.
No.
Boomers don't take that crap.
Oh.
And so, like, I mean, the problem is just sort of like, here's my problem with all of this. To me, it feels like the Giants are kidding themselves. Like, Matthew, is this all worth it if the Giants make the playoffs? Like, having Luciano rot on the vine?
You put it like that, that sounds like, but it's always worth, making the playoffs is always the ultimate goal.
No, and that's not true. That's not true. The ultimate goal is winning the World Series. That's the ultimate goal.
But you can't win the World Series without getting to the playoffs.
Yes, but you can also barely make the playoffs and then get your ass kicked.
Or you could barely make the playoffs and win the World Series.
Right, if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks, but the Giants aren't.
You say that, but you don't know. Did you know that the Arizona Diamondbacks were the Arizona Diamondbacks last year before they went to the World Series?
I knew that they had a good team of young players, unlike the Giants.
Well, I think that every year you need to go all in to win to make the playoffs, and so I don't agree. I don't disagree that demoting Camilo Doval to AAA was necessarily the answer to that, but I do think that their goal should be to make the playoffs every year. And
I mean, I think
they're only a game. They're a game and a half out.
I think
you got to do what you got to do.
No, you don't, because I think your goal should be able to build a team that can win consistently for the future. And if they make the playoffs this year with a team that can't make a deep run and they get bounced out in the first round, they're going to lose Snell. They're probably going to lose Chapman. And then they're going to have Luciano sort of wasting away for this month and a half. They're going to have gassed out Birdsong and Harrison with no backup. And I think all of that would not have been worth it, right? Like, you could have teed yourself up for being like, we're going to do our best with a young roster and see how it goes. If we don't make it, then at least we'll be primed for next year. And they would be in a much better position. Mm-hmm. Or if you're going to go for it, then go for it and buy at the deadline. And that's my problem, is that they're trying. It's like they didn't make either decision, and now it's coming back to bite them. They did not put themselves in the best position.
No. I think something else that just popped in my head as you were talking, that we've covered before on this podcast, is that I think a lot of our anger comes out of the fact of what Farhan says. You know, Farhan will say things like, well, we're going to bring Luciano up and play DH, right? Like, if Farhan just shut up and didn't say these things, we wouldn't have the ammunition that we have. And we'd be left to thinking, like, I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't, I don't know. I think
we wouldn't have the expectations.
Exactly. Yeah. And Farhan does that over and over again. He announces to the public what he's going to do and what they're doing. And then when it doesn't land, then he looks like an ass. And I feel like that he just needs to shut up. But he wants to be the smartest man in the room. He wants everyone to think he's the smartest man in the room, and the only way you can do that is by telling everybody. And so
how smart he is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I think everybody, actions speak loudly. Many say they speak louder than words, and I think that what he did at the trade deadline was a pretty loud statement. So I think trading Soler and bringing up Luciano would have been at least a statement of, you would have been like, oh, I guess we're going with youth now. If he had just said, oh, I'm just putting the best players that we have on the roster right now.
Right.
And then how Bob uses them is how Bob uses them. And then we'll adjust from there. That's probably what he should have said.
That's exactly what he should have said. Yeah.
And then, but also you got to get Luciano out of there. Because he's not going to play another game. Like, is he going to become your pinch runner? Like, he's going to be the Sean Estes? I mean, what? Is that why we brought up Luciano? I no. So you got to get him out of there.
Yeah. The only question is who you're replacing him with. So yeah, there's that.
I mean, that is a good question. Who would you replace him with? I mean, a Derek Hill equivalent, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you need another. I don't know what roster spot he's filling right now.
Solaire's, right? The
which was role. A DH guy. So you could put anybody there.
Yeah.
You could put anybody there.
All right.
David VR, I guess.
I guess. Woo! We're so excited.
Well, I mean, at least Luciano would be playing baseball somewhere.
Yes. Well, that's the point, right? I think that, to get him at bats and to let him play a position regularly is what he needs right now. And certainly he's not getting that. So I get that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Matthew, the Giants to me are like a man who is lost in the woods. He's an outdoorsy kind of guy. He probably thinks he's very outdoorsy.
I know. When you're lost in the woods, you hug a tree.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. But most people, Matthew, don't do that. They keep wandering around because there's going to be a trail or a road just over that hill, just past that tree, even though they've seen that tree like 3 times. And often what these people do is they start wandering away from the rescuers who are looking for them. And if they just sat down and waited to be rescued near a water source, they would be fine. But instead, they keep wandering because they keep thinking, I'm going to get myself out of this. And that's what the 2024 Giants feel like right now. If I keep just doing this one next thing, I will make the playoffs. And if I make the playoffs, then I'll make the next round. And then I'll make the next round. And then I'm going to win the World Series. And I'm going to be taking a hot shower tonight.
That's right.
But no, you're going to slip down a ravine and die. If you keep walking. And so that's kind of what the 2024 Giants look like right now as a man lost in the woods.
How poetic.
And that, Matthew, is how you take an 8-2 run and make it look negative.
Only you, Ben. Only you, Ben, can do that. Yeah. The rest of you folks, I just want to remind you that the Giants are only a game and a half out of the final.
That's right. That's right. You know what, folks? We're going to the playoffs, and we're going to make a World Series run for the ages.
That's right.
I'm. You know what? I've been sitting next to Matthew in the passenger seat the whole time. That man in the clown mask is me.
They're going to bring Camilo back for the playoffs, and boom, it's all going to be put together.
We're going to the playoffs.
Woo!
What about Marco Luciano? I don't care. They haven't known where he was for a whole year. I don't care if Hayden Birdsong's arm falls off.
We're good. Well, next thing we'll see is a Save Marco water tower.
We should just put a picture of him on milk cartons.
Yes.
And just his face. Have you seen this man?
Shout out to you if you got the Ferris Bueller reference. Okay. I think it's time for the trivia question, Ben.
Hopefully you mean the answer.
Yeah, the answer. Time to answer the trivia question, I guess I should say.
Steve Bedrosian, Robin.
All right. Well, let's see. Camilo Doval is currently 7th all-time in career saves for the Giants with 91. What 2 players is he in between on the all-time list? Well, Ben, it wasn't Rob Nen because Rob Nen is number 1 with 206 career saves for the Giants. But number 6 is Santiago Casilla, who is 6th all-time with 123 saves. I didn't realize he had that many.
Yeah. Surprising, right? Snuck up on you.
Yeah. And number 8 on the list is none other than Sergio Romo, who had 84 career saves with the Giants.
That's right. Another guy you kind of forget about. I mean, I don't. I mean, he won a World Series.
Won a World Series, yeah.
Yeah, but,
You see that video on YouTube like every other day. But,
I know. Well, I watch it every morning.
Fastball right down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I do every morning. Is I just look at the 3 plays that ended each World Series. And,
all right. Well, looking ahead, Ben, we have the Atlanta Braves, and if you had asked me a month ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, if the Atlanta Braves would be a really challenging series, I would have been like, oh God, we're getting killed. But the Braves have been struggling. Thanks to former Giant Luke Jackson today. Shout out to Luke. And so the Braves have lost 6 out of their last 10. They're struggling. They're starting to come back. They are in the last wild card spot right now, but barely hanging on, folks.
Yeah, they've been going through some rough spots. But do you know who has 2 home runs for them, Matthew, in a very short period of time? He has 14 for the year.
Jorge Soler.
Yeah. Two home runs. Like, I don't know. He hit him back to back. I think he hit them both in one single at bat.
Yes.
But here's the good news, Matthew. He doesn't like playing it. He doesn't like playing at Oracle Park.
Oh, well, that is good news. All right. All right. Well, and then notable players that have played for both teams. 286 players have played for both teams, and there is quite the list of Giants players. But both notable players are Pablo Sandoval, Kevin Gosman, and I was going to say Jorge Soler, but let me give you another one. I'll give you a few. Jock Peterson, Tommy LaStella, Alec Dickerson. All forever Giants that have played for both teams.
Dick.
Yeah, we can say it, Ben Caspick. You can't. Dick.
Yeah,
All right.
This is a family, but we're just degenerate families.
Yeah. Sorry, Scott, if your son's listening. All right.
It's just a man's first name. That's all.
Last name. All right. Anyway.
In that particular case, yes.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for us. Don't forget to follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon, @GiantCocktails. Also YouTube, where you can hear us on YouTube and leave comments and hit the little bell button to know when we publish. Don't forget to rate us. That would be wonderful. Go and give us a 5-star rating. Leave a little comment. That would be wonderful. Really help the show. Until Thursday, Ben, it's been good chatting with you. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
Do you think the term dongled by the dingler is going to become a thing?
Got dongled by the dingler. If Dingler becomes a huge player, yes. And we said it here first, Matthew. He could be the home run king one day, and then old men will proudly wear shirts that say, "I got dongled by the dingler."